Welcome to the Writing Freedom 2024 Fellows Reading. I am Jyoti Natarajan. I'm the Program Director for the Writing Freedom Fellowship at Haymarket Books, and I'm your MC. You'll be hearing from some phenomenal writers who we're here to celebrate, as well as a special guest who I'll introduce in just a moment. I imagine I've been in touch with some of you who are tuning in, and if not, I hope we have the chance to connect soon. We're so glad you're here. For those of you who may not know, Writing Freedom awards talented poets, fiction writers, and creative nonfiction writers who are impacted by the carceral system. This includes writers who are at different stages in their writing lives. The fellowship is run by Haymarket Books and has been developed in partnership with the Mellon Foundation. It's been incredibly meaningful to shape this program into the larger tapestry of Haymarket Books' work, which includes publishing books that sustain movements for social and economic justice, as well as the broader work of political education and empowerment. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of Haymarket. The writers who you'll be hearing from today were all awarded the inaugural 2024 Writing Freedom Fellowship. Their work reaches across geographies, across walls, and ranges in style from the lyric to the documentary, with essays and reportage that bear witness, stories of beauty, longing, and reconciliation, poems and essays that give voice to survival or interrogate memory and kinship. Shining through so much of the work is a belief in one another's humanity and solidarity. It was of great importance to us to build this event with Writing Freedom Fellows who are currently incarcerated, 3 of whom you'll hear from. We had to get creative in some instances to navigate the hurdles prisons maintain to make it difficult to connect with those we care about inside. And so for this reason, we've created a pre-recorded event that we've carefully edited with the hopes that fellows, their friends and families, and broader communities that care about their writing can gather together. Thank you to every single individual who's played a role in shaping writing freedom, everyone who's nominated writers for the fellowship, provided guidance along the way, everyone who's taken part in the very difficult work of selecting which writers receive this honor. And most importantly, thank you to the Writing Freedom Fellows. What an honor it's been to get to know you and your work. And with that, this is the moment you've been waiting for. We're delighted to be joined today by a special guest, fiction writer and essayist Rachel Kushner, whose most recent novel is Creation Lake. Rachel serves on the Writing Freedom Advisory Board and was part of the committee that selected the 2024 fellows. Rachel's here to share a special message for the writers in the 2024 Writing Freedom cohort. Thank you so much, Rachel, for kicking us off.
Congratulations to the Writing Freedom Fellows of 2024. I've written my remarks and will read them to you. You have earned this recognition and deeply by the quality of your work, the journey of its development, your commitment to it, your unique voice, and the way that you have established through your writing practice the necessity for the rest of us of your perspective. Writers are colleagues, peers. We are comrades in arms. It is a special right to be able to honor and support those likewise engaged in this craft. I was invited by incredible luck to support this endeavor of the Writing Freedom Award before its inaugural cohort was selected by a committee I was on back in 2023. The process of working with Haymarket and my fellow committee members, developing standards and protocols for this prize, figuring out how to support justice-impacted writers, working alongside justice-impacted writers, knowing that I was always in a space with people of like minds has been one of the greatest honors of my writing life, and perhaps my life generally. If those of us involved with writing freedom come from different backgrounds, circumstances, engagements, and experience, we are all clear on what the work is. The pursuit of freedom, the strained axes of innocence and guilt, the turbulence of a society that punishes and incapacitates, a society in which fate of origin plays a role in who is punished. These are subjects for any serious writer. The writer is someone who does not judge because she cannot judge, because her work is elsewhere. It is about doubt and truth and perception. As I wanted to emphasize first, you have earned the Writing Freedom Award, but you've also made it through an elaborate and rigorous selection process. You earned this, and then again, you were chosen and carefully by people who had the very difficult task of attempting to build a fair and thoughtful method of who to award and support while having to turn others away. I've been on that selection committee, and it is not easy. It kept me up at night. The weight of choosing who to support is a terrific responsibility. You are the cohort that the 2024 committee landed upon as a group to celebrate. You are here. Writing is hard. We all have moments of doubt. I want to ask you to remember in those moments that there is a reason you got this award. Be equal to that reason. When you can't believe in yourself, and it happens to all of us, remember that others believed in you and continue to do so. You got this fellowship. It's proof. It also means you have to work hard, or rather, you have been granted the right to work hard. My own engagement in art, when I'm really immersed, is the greatest pleasure of my life. If a prize can help maneuver other writers into that zone, the trance, as I think of it, that's just about the best gift a writer could receive. Once again, congratulations.
My name is C. Foster Cabrera. I'm an artist, a writer, the director of Transformative Justice at Damascus Way, and the 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. This piece is titled, What is More Dangerous Than Art? It's 2016. I've been incarcerated at Stillwater Prison for 13 years. Throughout that time, I've dealt with confinement as an artist. Among the many possible labels that could have befallen me, from both sides of the wall, I was respected among my peers as an artist. We built a robust arts culture inside a complicated community that negotiated with violence and bartered in art, which gave way to literature and poetry. When people paid attention, whether from the inside or out, we didn't disappoint. At that time, I was a model inmate at my pinnacle, running a full-time art department, managing a creative writing program, and facilitating restorative justice initiatives in my spare time. Then the Department of Corrections decided I was a security threat. Too much influence over staff and inmates. I was transferred immediately to a prison reserved for shot callers and undesirables. I suppose, what is more dangerous than art? Upon arrival at Rush City Prison, all my art supplies were confiscated. I was allowed 10 books, including sketchbooks, journals, and notebooks. Little did they know, I'm built to run on Sprite. Staring at a blank page stripped down to pen and paper, an artist's brush is just an interchangeable instrument. Sacred, yet replaceable. Prison does everything in its power to break your spirit, no less cruel than the hurricanes that smashed the coast, and no less vicious than the judgments of small towns. I needed to prove to myself that I was more than what the world said about me. The Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop began in 2011 and was flourishing beyond the prison walls, which kept me connected to the craft. Literature brought wonderment to my soul, and since I no longer ran the programs, I read more. I became addicted to chasing the spirit of the human condition in the depths of such American tragedy as mass incarceration. By 2023, I published poems in my dream journals, done the cover art for the Washington Post magazine, had Parameters of Our Cage with Alex Soth, reviewed by The Guardian and The New Yorker, and edited an anthology, American Precariat, projects unheard of from a prison cell. I was living the artist's examined life from a cage when I found myself staring down another blank page. This time, it wasn't for a publication, a grant, or a fellowship. I was writing my commutation speech to the State Board of Pardons, requesting my release, a literal attempt to write myself free. When I was named a finalist for the Haymarket Writing Freedom Fellowship, it felt like a win already. I was excited to leverage it against publication opportunities. I received the official news weeks before my hearing, yet I couldn't tell anybody. This monumental validation created a calm in me. No matter what they did with my body, this was proof that they didn't control my capabilities. On December 19th, 2023, my commutation was unanimous in my favor. After 21 years of incarceration, I stepped back into the world as an artist. It felt like a scene from the movie Shawshank Redemption, when Tim Robbins emerges from the sewage to take his first deep breath under the purifying rain. The Writing Freedom Fellowship gave me the grace to breathe after 2 decades of a trial by fire, where I used art to restore my humanity. For decades, they silenced our achievements and dulled the desire to do more than sit in a cage because we might re-victimize family members. Our voices went unheard. Or so I thought. Thanks to the fellowship, our cohort grows. Art is the most astute form of communication. Who thought they'd find such refinement in the trenches? We must show them. Fellowship recognizes what it takes to remain an artist under the worst circumstances. I have taken that initial liberating breath. Now I'm ready to get back to work. Because what's more dangerous than art?
Peace, Haymarket. This is ZEKE CALIGIURI, coming from South Minneapolis, sending love your way. So proud to be a part of this fellowship, part of this project. I love y'all. I'm going to read for you today a piece called Coming Home Taught Me. When I got out, I came back to South Minneapolis in a state transport vehicle usually reserved for smuggling souls from a lesser kind of free to a lesser kind of free. Too jarred and motion sick to speak, too dizzy to recognize the city I was raised, kicking at a gobble of turkeys just to be able to set foot on this ground again. By get out, I mean prison, captivity. When I say free, I don't exactly know what I mean. I can only get free as much as my captors are able to come back and get me. Welcome home. Community only ever imagined asked me how it felt as though the city had held a place for me for 23 years, a future of sun struggles horizons before imagined tomorrows. When I said home, I think South Minneapolis. My first words ever spoken within a jail were South and Side before I was even given a name or a number. I spent the years I was away redrafting a map, years in geography within fading red lines, covenants I never read. My family only pretended to own the house across 35th from Powderhorn Park. I lurk in the shadow of that house every time I walk, hoping it might welcome me back, but it hasn't. Every corner in the city is a ghost I have argued with or slapboxed with on cold mornings waiting for buses. Every lot, vacant, ignored, or transformed, a staging ground for our resistance. Sears, Pizza Shack, robber shoes, retriangulated. Buildings try to tell stories of permanence and legacy, but the scars a building wears are not the same as the marks a person crafts from their wounds. The prison taught me that. As a child, I didn't have to fight for my food. Hunger taught me that. Our bodies are prisons too. We were supposed to follow our fathers to the schooner or the joint, bars where the South Side goes to die, crumpled piles in a corner, wet, soiled in carcinogen. Pot steaming, stripping destiny from leaves of oleander, I follow no man. Traveling on these streets, every corner is populated with a past and a sign. See me, hear me, hire me, help me, hurt me, hide me. All of our unravelings leaning in slow motion. I follow no man. Time taught me that. I won't honor streets named for activists who sold us into systems or pledge allegiance to buildings with cages in its belly. Before I got out, I watched the 3rd precinct in my city burn. Tears flooded my eyes, not for the building or any of the ideas that lived and tortured within. I cried because my parents couldn't live long enough to see these institutions implode. I will save the embers from that fire in my pocket, and I will sit with the ashes and with the poets. Love to you all.
My name is Star Davis, and I'm a 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. I'll be reading an excerpt from my essay, Blood Mother. It's from my forthcoming memoir with Autumn House Press, titled I Am Mostly Bad Blood. Blood Mother. On my first night in jail, my period arrived as a secret my body forgot to tell me. There are a few tampons stacked neatly in the windowsill. Pads must be purchased with a commissary. I do not know what a commissary is yet. I force my thighs together like two palms, praying nothing leaks out onto the mattress, the one I am told to pick up like a cross and carry into the cell. It consisted of a thin layer of cotton, making my body become one with the metal bunk frame beneath me. I thought about the blood flowing free and how warm that spot on the mattress will be. In reality, I am afraid of getting up to walk across the room where the other women sleep. I am afraid to go grab a tampon to cut through the wrapping paper and open my legs only to release the stench of blood in the tiny room. Maybe it already smelled of blood and other fluids. Maybe I just did not want to smell my blood and have to admit that I was here and that somewhere someone believes I am guilty, and smelling my bad blood might just convince me that maybe I am. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie of ECHEVERRÍA-FENN, and I am a 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow, and my piece is called Clear. I will find you in a hard place, so I will speak to you in a hard language. No time for baby talk, for how you're supposed to teach children language, by playfully mirroring their words and gestures. No one will ever mirror you back to yourself, not even me, because they will separate us. They will rob you of me with words like bloodline, words like family, words like parents. They will teach you to hate me, my body, my language, and the way that these things had been disfigured by what they have done to me. My fists are permanently clenched in the direction of my own undoing, the way electrocution leaves a hand still clutching the fence. They will point to these coerced convulsions as the proof that we wanted this, that we chose this, that certain people just don't want to thrive. I will speak to you obliquely in code, in metaphor. Ask me if I'm rebuffing you, and I will say yes. Ask me if I'm searching desperately for you, and I will say yes. I'm running through every freezing warehouse where I read pastoral in the break room, only to come away profoundly ashamed to stand before its life transcendence in my brutish workhorse of a body. I am strolling through every West Coast track where a migrant has fucked me in his pickup truck, and I've cried at the limber stanzas of his work boots, his loneliness, and his balled up fistfuls of cash passed furtively into my palm. I cannot pass these things down too directly. I left the panel on agents because my toddler was crying. That was one reason. The other was that if I ever published an honest memoir, they would take away my fucking baby. The next day, I was shocked by the electric fence across the street, the one built to contain horses with my child in my arms. At Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the doctor does an EKG on her. He explains that our hearts create their own electricity, but these organic currents are disordered when they come in contact with the much stronger ones of some machine. I think of electronic defibrillators in the room across the hall, the one room that looks the same in all children's hospitals. It is twice as large as the others and lit up with stadium lights and the harsh glare of heavy equipment. It bears one word over the door: resuscitation. My baby has only approached this room once, and once was enough. But you and I, we have been here many times, gone down many times, come back many times, because to live outside of bioreproductive kinship bonds means that there is nothing that this world will not do to us. Outside each resuscitation room, the entire door is covered with paper name tags, labeled with every role in an emergency: left side nurse, right side nurse, head of bed monitor. Clinicians grab one each as they rush in, and the idea is that even when they do not know each other, they can know their roles clearly enough to save lives through fragmented and collective action. You will find me outside this room, frantically passing down paper name tags labeled Audrey, labeled Sylvia, labeled Dorothy Allison, and on the last one I will write my own name. A hand contracted on a live wire forms the same contours as a hand pearled into the hand of another. Their damage created the very shape that allows me to hold you so fiercely. When I finally do, I hope that you can let the current move through you as I call you my child for the very first time. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is DEIDRE. I am a recipient of the 2024 Haymarket Writing Freedom Fellowship. Today, I want to share with you a rendition of a poem I wrote 38 years ago. I chose this poem because it reminds me of the principles upon which it must have taken to form this wonderful fellowship. The principles upon which it must have taken to form this fellowship are principles upon which I live. I take those principles with me, whether I am traveling to Beverly Hills to the ABA conference, whether I'm going to Duke or Harvard Law School, or whether I'm just walking into a prison, or whether I am sitting in a church, or whether I'm walking the streets of Baltimore. Those are principles that live in my heart. Those are principles that says, I will love you because you are my fellow human being. Those are principles that says, I will love you in spite of disagreements and disappointments. That I will talk to you always. That I will never turn my back on you because you are my fellow human being. This is my poem, Through the Storm. Through the storm, I am tired, weak, and worn. I have been through the storm and through the night. I said, he said, she said, they said, we said. My way has grown drear and my life is almost gone. I said, he said, she said, they said, we said. Hear my cry, take my call. I said, he said, she said, they said, we said. The darkness has appeared and the night has drawn near. The day is past and I'm all alone. I said, he said, she said, They said, we said. At the river, I tried to stand. I want to fight. Will you guide my feet? Will you hold my hand? I said, he said, she said, they said, we said. Thank you, Haymarket.
My name is Victoria Newton Ford, and I'm a Writing Freedom Fellow. I'll be reading a poem from my manuscript in progress, which is about Black mothers and their daughters, captivity and haunting. Mitchell Ford worried about the future of her children. WMC Action News 5, February 29th, 2008. Quick like an edit made to a retelling. Children wait for their mother, and without modifying any verb or noun, this could simply be as tedious as longing. I remember longing one night, or every night I was held by an uncountable turning, depends on the retelling. Once and always I was sitting on the staircase in the absence of light, my brother and sister taking turns to count the dust lingering above us, patrolling the front door. Not knowing what fell was probably dead skin or tiny living things surviving in disguise and hungry. Not knowing our mother wouldn't return for hours or days. Specificity makes all things kind and dependent. I could say 6, 7, 8-year-olds wait for their worried mother to come home from prison. Or I could say when you read about life on plantations, you notice the scandalous incident is never what happens to the slave. No, it's never what happens by the tree or in the field to the children flung inside the waters. The scandal configures itself in a scene of witness. If what happens to the slave happens in the presence of another master, usually the mistress, there is a problem. So witnessing violence becomes the issue now the slave must rectify through punishment. Even when the master chooses to tie the knot, to raise the hand, to look, even as the masters maintain dominion over the world, which is the violence that mothers violence. Look at me. What edit might we make now to this retelling?
Hi, my name is KEEONNA Harris, and I am a 2024 Writing for Freedom Fellow. I will be reading a brief excerpt from my debut memoir, Mainline Mama. I jumped. The water rushed over my head. I couldn't breathe. I panicked and started flopping around. I struggled in the water, tried reaching for something, anything. Finally, the instructor pulled me up and put me on the edge of the pool. "You said you were going to catch me," I yelled. "I wanted you to experience putting your head underwater." He shrugged. Angry, I stomped back to the towel claim. I didn't tell Kawhi or anybody I was leaving. The instructor was a liar. I left the mesh bag full of our stuff behind the counter. Kawhi had the key. I wasn't waiting for nothing. I wrapped myself in a towel and decided I was going home. Beads clicking and clacking as I stomped out of Will Rogers Park. My feet burned against the hot concrete, but I wasn't stopping. Granny's house was only a block away. At Granny's door, I paused. I needed to fix my face before I went inside. I was still mad and didn't need any questions. I opened the door slowly and made a beeline for the bathroom. I locked the door behind me before Granny noticed. My little one piece clung to my skin the way it was supposed to, but I wanted it off. It was like peeling off a layer of dead skin, slow and uncomfortable. I finally got it off and showered, rinsing off the chlorine in the pool, in the park, all of it. I didn't trust swim instructors or the water. How could I trust anything that was see-through? How could I trust it could hold me? I was done. Done with men lying, saying they would catch me, and done believing something I couldn't see would keep me afloat. That swim lesson became a lesson for me. That was the day I awakened to my life and my environment. That was the day it clicked that I couldn't trust people. I would have to learn to float on my own before I started swimming. I wasn't going to jump into anything feet first, and I wasn't about to trust someone to catch me. I wasn't going to become a swimmer. After that, I tried to become the water. I became the colorless, see-through, and odorless liquid that is the basis for living. I held up my granny, my mama, my daddy, my auntie, my cousin, and later Jason. I never let their lungs fill up with water. I never let them suffocate. I kept them afloat. I let them lie on my back and I carried them safely to shore. I let them ingest me until they were full. They needed me to survive. I didn't learn to swim until I turned 38, after Will Rogers Park became Ted Watkins Park, after I moved to Arizona and learned at Pecos Park in Ahwatukee. I lay atop the water, eyes to the sky, and I didn't sink. I knew then that what I didn't need anyone to catch me, to provide nourishment, or to breathe life into me. I knew that as long as I loved and trusted myself, I would always rise to the top.
Behind the Walls by Quanetta Harris. Read by V. Solitary confinement transforms already vulnerable women into perfect targets for institutional violence. During my 8.5 years in solitary, I witnessed firsthand how this supposedly protective measure became the perfect breeding ground for abuse. The isolation, the dependency, and the power imbalance create conditions where sexual and physical violence aren't just possible, they're inevitable. In Texas, where summer temperatures regularly reach triple digits and concrete cells become ovens, I learned that everything from basic necessities to human dignity comes with a price. The architecture of solitary confinement deliberately creates complete dependency on guards, who are predominantly young males overseeing mostly young women. When you're locked in a cell for 23 hours a day, fundamental needs such as food, water, and hygiene products must pass through the hands of someone with total power over you. This reliance isn't accidental. It's a feature of the system. I remember days when asking for an extra roll of toilet paper was met with the familiar refrain, "What you gonna do for it?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with implication. When your access to tampons or pads depends on the whims of male guards, your body becomes currency in a transaction you never agreed to. By design, the isolation is a fertile hunting ground for sexual predators costumed as corrections officers. Without functioning cameras or with cameras monitored by colleagues equally guilty of misconduct, privacy doesn't exist. My cell in the hole had a mesh viewing window that I wasn't allowed to cover, even while using the toilet. I can't count how many times I found myself trying to use the bathroom, while male guards stood outside making trivial conversation, his eyes never leaving my exposed body. Some women resort to deliberately poor hygiene, going weeks without bathing, hoping that body odor might serve as a deterrent against unwanted attention. My neighbor tried this once, but the tactics backfired when a guard wrote her up for failing to obey a direct order. By failing to maintain proper hygiene, a disciplinary infraction that would later be cited in her parole denial.
The power wielded by guards extends beyond simple observation to active humiliation and coercion. Male guards routinely watched us shower, twirling their fingers to instruct us to turn around so they could get a better view. During mandatory searches, they would deliberately brush against us or, when we were handcuffed, position themselves so our restrained hands would brush against their genitals. 1 week after I refused the guards' advances, my water was mysteriously malfunctioning. Unable to flush my toilet or drink tap water, I endured 3 days of dehydration and humiliation before an indifferent maintenance worker fixed the problem with a simple turn of a valve that had been deliberately shut off. The threat of retaliation makes reporting abuse a dangerous proposition that few dare to attempt. When my friend finally gathered the courage to report a guard who'd been forcing her to perform sexual acts in exchange for her mail, the investigation was conducted by his relative within a week. She received 3 disciplinary infractions, all falsified, each one a clear message: stay silent or suffer. Her hunger pains that followed as her food trays mysteriously contained half portions were so loud she mistook them for thunder. Studies show incarcerated women are prescribed psychotropic medications at significantly higher rates than incarcerated men. We also exhibit higher rates of self-harm and suicide attempts than men in similar conditions. The geographic isolation of women's prisons compounds the emotional toll of solitary confinement. Over 80% of incarcerated women are mothers, yet most prisons are built in rural, isolated areas deliberately difficult for families to visit. The desperation to return to our children creates a powerful leverage point for abusive staff. My own daughter grew from an infant to being a college freshman during my incarceration. I'm imprisoned in Texas, and my entire family resides in Michigan, so I've only seen her twice. For my first 7 years in the hole, I was only allowed a 5-minute call every 3 to 4 months, and that's only if my disciplinary record was good. It was, but when a guard implied he could arrange extra phone privileges, the temptation to compromise my dignity was almost overwhelming. Female guards, far from being allies, often become complicit in maintaining this abusive system. I remember when a female officer witnessed a male guard making explicit comments about my body as I showered. Rather than intervene, she laughed along, later telling me I should be flattered by the attention. Female staff who did show compassion quickly learned to suppress it or found themselves transferred to a different building. The culture of corruption and abuse envelops everyone, transforming even potential allies into participants or silent witnesses. In solitary, we aren't just punished with isolation. We're also forced to witness and experience cycles of abuse so routinely that they become normalized. Like domesticated animals, we learn that resistance brings pain and compliance brings relief. This conditioning, this breaking of the spirits, is perhaps the cruelest aspect of solitary confinement for women. When I finally left isolation after 8.5 years, I found myself flinching at kindness, suspicious of generosity, and incapable of trust. The walls of my cell may have fallen away, but the psychological prison remains, a testament to a system designed not to rehabilitate women, but to break them.
I'm Kenneth Hartman, 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. This is from my memoir, Mother California, A Story of Redemption Behind Bars. North Long Beach. When I was 19, I killed a man in a drunken, drugged-up fistfight. Anyone who knew me could have seen it coming. I had spent my entire adolescence in and out of major trouble. I stole, I lied, I cheated. I was extraordinarily, preternaturally violent. In my short life, I had left behind me a pile of wreckage. I was, in the euphemism of the outcast, state-raised, a child of Mother California. In my world, it's a title to be proud of. Surviving an upbringing in the Golden State's juvenile prison system is considered something of an accomplishment. Before I was eligible for a driver's license, I had witnessed stabbings and beatings too numerous to count. and I had participated in more than I care to recall. I had seen boys gang rape other boys in the shower. I had beaten others unconsciously simply because of a misspoken word. On one occasion in Orange County Juvenile Hall, when I was 15, after fighting with 10 guards, I spent days naked in a rubber-walled room with a hole in the floor. Stripped to the bare necessities, one learns that respect is to be demanded at all costs, on penalty of death, even one's own. In every jail and juvenile camp, I learned the same lesson. No one ever wanted to know what I did for a living. They wanted to see if I was predator or prey. Shoved against a wall, surrounded in a dark alley, looking into the barrel of a battered service revolver, I always got the same message. Will you stand up and fight, or will you bow down? The winnowing process began on a schoolyard and ended with only the baddest of the badasses still standing. It became a job, this posture of hardness. Like the time the local girls came to me and said some guy had disrespected them in our neighborhood. Though I considered them little more than receptacles and tight pants, I ran to their defense. He was a fellow predator I recognized instantly. The torn jeans, the dusty combat boots, the jangling keys hanging off his leather belt, all of these marked him as another sidewalk commando. More to the point, the deadened hardness around his reddened eyes identified him as a citizen of my world. I walked up to him and demanded he apologize. He leaned back and patted the side of his shirt. I'm packing, he told me, the outlines of the pistol's butt visible. I stepped closer and told him to either start shooting or start apologizing. He looked into my eyes and saw an inflexible fearlessness and irrational aggression. After he made his act of contrition, he walked away, tossing over his shoulder, "You're fucking crazy." It was a grudging compliment. This was who I was. This was who I aspired to be. It all imploded one February night in 1980 when I encountered poor Thomas Allen Fellows. I had spent the night in a series of bars, the kind of bars frequented by men with tattooed necks and women drawn to chaos and rampant testosterone. I was fresh out of my latest stint in Mother California's Youth Authority, known to all of us who had walked her unforgiving yards as the YA. 220 pounds, 6'2", a coiled spring of hostility, I had the dead eyes familiar to prison guards and combat veterans. I walked with the studied indifference of the fearless, although my impetus was, on deeper reflection from this distant vantage, undistilled fear. Fear of the other, fear that I would be discovered to be weaker than my act. Deeper still, down beyond my casual, bruised comprehension, I was desperately lonely and sad.
Quantus Conquest. I'll be reading from a work I've been developing for some time now entitled On Everything I Love, a novel. Gee Whiz hasn't gone much further than the living room, caught off guard for a spell by a spell of emotions. He inhales the smell of all the home he's known since childhood, can hardly help but smile. His mom's Annabelle walks in behind him, her voice fading to soft murmurs, an alto whispered melody to score his soul's Sally, homecoming on a whole other level. A metempsychosis, imagine, transferring him in a heartbeat from the present moment to the same place beyond Du Bois's veil, if permitted. Stepping back into that black reality, his southern mind still prey to antebellum echoes after prison's nonverbals, living like a fly stuck in amber, solitary confinement, invariably. To a mind condition like that, life itself is a mental construct. It's just a matter of naming the architect. So he's in his grandma's living room with this mounting awareness, an awareness that tells him everything that has ever happened is happening right now. The past is alive. Only thing dying is possibilities, he muses. his mind awash with ideas, looking over floors and furniture he's grown taller than over the years, thinking about it like chocolate cabalism, standing on several planes, each choice echoing, altering several versions of what's possible all at once. An eternal now, where history in this instance, having already occurred, refuses to pass, rendering the past an active presence, as close to gee whiz as the smell of the old Polaroids that lay beneath the glass on Grandma's coffee table. He picks up an old picture of him and Rhonda standing outside in front of Booker T. Washington High. Her alma mater, he never graduated. Got his GED in Paris jail awaiting trial. Brings to mind BTW's ill-conceived compromise, he and his sister's education, how she's fared, his just coming home from a prison form. The way that old man's choices triggered consequences, the way his own have modified what's possible for so many others on both accounts. Just standing there in Grandma's living room, these notions fixing him, his spirit sopping it all up. Feel like getting his bearing, his feet under him. But what about he reasons that category of choices that work to forfeit or nullify the lasting effects of the past? Surely that would end the influence of the past, right? At least in the life of that choice maker, even if the past still lives on in the lives of the people around him. Whatever the case, what it all amounts to is a stream of postures and possibilities that span the entire timeline of human existence, flowing from one lifetime to another. What little change each choice maker having managed in their own personal affairs, speaking to the social weight of the age. Gee whiz's present situation, more than interdependence, an eternal now, in choices. He beats a beeline to Grandma's refrigerator.
This is Ken Lamberton, and I'm reading from my first book, Wilderness and Razor Wire, A Naturalist's Observations from Prison. Almanac, Tarantula, September 19th, 1996. The high is 93 degrees Fahrenheit, the low is 67. Rain. After a 20-minute thunderstorm, I walk the sun down until even the eastern sky ignites with evening's violet mesentery. My feet crunch on wet grus, the decomposed granite substrate of my world that's textured like grape-nut cereal. The air is cool, heavy with breath, and smells like reconciliation, fresh, new, something undeserved. Alongside the track, some men have gathered to visit the home of a spider. It's become a regular attraction, and lately I've caught my eye straying to the half-dollar-sized hole while making my circuits. Tonight, something well-upholstered is out. When I approach, I can see the heavy blonde body of a female. She spans her burrow easily. In fact, she could fill the palm of my hand. One of the men tosses her a giant beetle. She's instantly upon it, her fangs piercing its armor with a primeval sound, a sound out of the Devonian. Despite this performance, I know tarantulas are really quite gentle, hesitant to bite, non-beetles anyway, unless provoked. And even then, the worst the spider may do is to kick a patch of barbed hairs off its abdomen in an attempt to irritate the eyes of its attacker. The tarantula retreats into her hole, and her audience begins to lose interest. When not hand-fed, she will lay out a network of silk threads from the den's entrance to cue her to the approach of potential prey, a kind of motion detector not unlike the prison security system. She will also clear the surrounding area of debris, as meticulously as the guards rake the perimeter sand traps. Later, I encounter another tarantula, this one thin and anxious, a male out searching for a mate. The rain has stirred him to his seasonal ritual, and I can almost sense his urgency. A female lives up to 20 years and can afford to wait patiently in her burrow. Not so the male. He must have priorities. I've seen males so focused on engaging females that they shrink to little more than hairy, bent spokes and sex drive. Spider sex can be a matter of life and death. If he doesn't succumb to starvation, the male tarantula, when he locates a mate, must do more than woo her. He must take, shall I say, precautions. After the introductory drumming of his pedipalps and some experimental touching, he squares off with her head to head. Over and over, the pair rears up together in the universal posturing of love and aggression. When he's ready to make his move, he parries her fangs with special hooks on his forelegs, bends her backward, and slips his sperm-laden palps into her reproductive groove. He then scrambles for his life before his body becomes nourishment for her eggs. Looking at the life from the perspective of a spider can be sobering, particularly the perspective of a lonely, wandering male tarantula. I wonder whether male chauvinism wouldn't be diminished if people were more like spiders in certain respects. I consider carrying this one to the female's den, but he's agitated. He immediately flicks hair at me. I leave him on the track, alone in his post-storm lust. It's a fitting frustration for prison dwellers, anyway.
In this video, I'll be reading an excerpt from my book, The Tragedy of True Crime, 4 Guilty Men and the Stories That Define Us. And in this excerpt, I'll be reading about just a day in the life of a writer in a joint. Here we go. As I edit this chapter on New Year's Day in 2024, I'm sitting on the bolted stool in my cell, typing on a rubber keyboard plugged into my JPay tablet. This is my routine. I roll out of my bunk after 6:30 a.m., count, put on the hot water. I hear "Count Clear" crackle over the radio. I soon smell the bread Steve's toasting in the pantry. I stretch, maybe meditate, read my daily reflections, mix hot water and Bustelo and pour it through my homemade strainer, a handkerchief sewn into a peanut butter jar lid with the top cut out of it. It's a new year. Means nothing to me, though. My days are all the same in here. I'm living my resolution. I plan to stay in my cell this morning, like I do most mornings, and write. Around 10 a.m., my lamp goes out. I get up from the stool, shuffle to the toilet to take a piss, but when I push the button, it doesn't flush. Same with the sink. I knock on my neighbor's wall, the shot caller blood kid with the iPhone who's always smoking exotic weed, and ask him if he's got power. I hear him ask others a few cells down. They all have power and water. Then we hear, "Coming in hot." About 15 officers and a few sergeants and a lieutenant rush into the corner as our cells, mine and those of the shot caller, his homie, and a few others on the tier above, all open at the same time. "Don't move, don't move." It's always jarring when your cell opens and COs run in and snatch you. I come out with ease, hands up, put them on the wall. They pat me down, cuff me. Same with my neighbor. His phone and a clip blunt are on his desk. He had a good round. He doesn't give a fuck. Soon we're all outside our cells, facing the wall, cuffed. Then they start finding more phones, 3 of them. A big bust to bring in the new year. The real bust, of course, would be to catch the COs who's sneaking all the phones into the prison. A couple COs search my cell. They're cool about it.
I ain't no holster, I tell them, and I don't have anything. They know I'm a journalist. I'd rather my cell was on the hit list. If your cell doesn't get hit when everyone else's around you is hit, well, as you can imagine, that doesn't look good. The COs are meticulous but respectful with my stuff, fingering through magazine stacks, rows of folders stuffed with drafts and research articles on the floor, stacks of books on the radiator, 10 different drafts of this manuscript stacked 3 feet high up to my hip. They take an hour to sift through all my stuff. When they finally leave, I sit on a stool and look at the mess they made. I get up and start putting my cell back together. It'll take hours. I'll get no work done today.
Hi, my name's Ian Manuel. I'm a 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. This piece I'm about to perform and read to you is called My Time Will Come, which is also the title of my book, published by Penguin Random House. It was written in solitary confinement after my life sentences was nullified and changed to 65 years. It was written to inspire and motivate myself because I needed a reason to keep believing and keep going that I wasn't going to die in prison. So I'd like to share it with you. It says, I promise you, the brunt of my oppression has a purpose, and the same person that you persecute will one day be worshiped. Though I stand before you bare-chested and shirtless, with my soul and emotions naked, just wanting to be nurtured. Yeah, despite the desperation, desertion, and hurting, my time gonna come. Though I composed this poem not knowing if I'll ever be able to perform it in an auditorium, I do it with the faith of a poet who believes he was born to do it, like an acorn caught up in a storm, flung from the branch where it was born. You can only hold me back for so long. My time gonna come. Despite the difficulties and disappointments, my determination remains undaunted. Though the waters of my tomorrows are deep and uncharted, the buoyance of my character will float unwavering towards them. Like a song written, yet unrecorded, my time gonna come. Though you wrapped me in chains and sprayed me with chemical flames and did all of the things you did to add to my pain, my circumstances will change. I believe this with the depths of my being, that as long as this world continues to spin, it cannot end until it's been enjoyed by Ian. Remember this day, because things won't always be this way. My time gonna come. My time gonna come. Against all conceivable odds, my time gonna come. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Nagy, and I am 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. I am also a writer in exile, originally from Egypt, and today I will read a small part of my coming novel. The novel title is The Pigeonhole Principle, and this is how this excerpt goes. My uncle loves America, and although he's not a full citizen, he completely trusts and aligns himself with the American state. No matter the conversation, he always finds a way to mention the famous American daily prayer, the greatest country in the world. He believes that whatever America does must be right. To him, American government is the guardian of the world, the protector of the planet. Everything it does is done for our benefit. And, like God, it might sometimes do things that seems harmful or even evil, but eventually wisdom and virtues always emerge. As for me, I develop a masochistic approach. After all I have been through, I lost faith. I no longer believe in divine justice or hidden wisdom. I simply acknowledge the reality of the world. I belong to the loser team. Yeah, I belong to the loser team, the submissive culture. I am marked by forever stigma. Beauty can never win. It's our fate to be fucked. As a writer, as a poet, it's our fate to be fucked. And if this is what it is, I would instead to be fucked by big American gold dick. Not a cheap Israeli one or limp local proxy regime one where I came from. I don't believe in America. I submit to it. And like any true submissive, I climax on this twisted relationship of love, hate, and fear. The shiver, the tremble, the witness before that first strike of the whip on your bare flesh. How far and deep could I take the golden sharp dildo, especially without a loop? I don't know. My uncle is trying to change the conversation by adding lubricant to it. And do you know the best things about this country? And I know the whiskey has a national park. As if he didn't hear me, although he did. That whatever your story, your life has been, the woman next to you on the bus has a crazier story. And I love that. But I got bored with it, you know? So now I am just guarding the graveyards, just minding the dead people and the planets. Did you see any goats? Yeah, sometimes, but mostly they talk about how the food tastes they miss, hot dog, cakes, and shepherd pie. Any donuts or frozen cake? No, not much, mostly meat processed. Huh, hmm, I started to feel hungry. Hmm.
Hi, I'm Dee Schmid. I'm a writer and a 2024 Writing Freedom Fellow. This poem is called Death. It's genetic. I'm trying to die on the psych ward, and Uncle Jamie nods off at the table next to a spoon and the works. And my dad and his motorcycle swerve into the van, and he goes into the ambulance fighting anyone who tries to touch him. But even if you court it, you're stupid if you're not afraid. I'm afraid, so I'm rehearsing. I try to touch it, eyes averted, holy cold fear, the corpse of the mouse I killed, stiff as a new suit in my hand. A part of my little soul curls up too, in the pantry where the mouse died, so I could feel safe. So I've made 2 ghosts today. Run the blocking again. At night, touching your hand before sleep, I play dead. In the morning, I wake and it's fall. The trees are my grandparents in their 80s, going through their living room, touching the worthless china, asking me, "Do you want this or this? Will you keep this after we're gone?" I want to clutch everything to me, but my arms get heavy and I have to let it go. So I do. I lob it into the future. Everything. I step off the porch onto a carpet of ginkgo leaves, bright yellow. The rehearsal of the trees is grace, most potent and fearful song. I want to avert my eyes. It's almost enough to make a body refuse tenderness or ask for more, more, more. This last poem is called Location. My mother was big and pregnant with me in the stairwell of our building when a man went for her, teeth bared like a dog. All he wanted, someone to give him the end of the world. She screamed so loud she brought my father from the shower, who slipped down the hallway of the apartment, too late. She screamed so loud she disappeared the man. The first world is the mother. The second is the mother's scream. It is where I was born. Does every mother believe they push their child out into Babylon? Does every mother know she delivers a death? The world ends at the silence of women, white sheets crisp on the line. I watched the cops split open the bodies and put their hands on the star matter. What was most hidden, most holy? I honed my mouth against a whetstone. Decay foams in the corpse of the field mouse. The woman falls pregnant. The body is not intelligible. Its holy mystery does not belong to anyone. I am growing. I wanted to say as fat as the moon, but I am too old to still believe anyone finds my body sacred. If I believe my body is not cherished, my debt to other discarded bodies grows. A flowering. My wounds grow. My decay grows. My child grows. She turns inside me. Her body is a scream in the dark.
My name is Crystal Wilkinson. I'm a Writing Freedom Fellow, and I'm going to be reading a poem from my collection of poetry called Perfect Black that came out in 2021 from the University Press of Kentucky. Asking about my mother. In the small kitchen, a hog's head weaves the gamey scent of death throughout the house. My grandmother scrapes black hair from the hog's pink head with the sharp blade of her butcher knife. I ask her about my mother. I always ask her about my mother. I play paper dolls under a formica table with pearls around my neck and pink lipstick from my mother's treasure chest. My grandmother places the head into the tub and I watch her hands, wait for her to tell me where my mother's gone. My grandmother fills the tub with water. I hate that she always reminds me of all she's done for love. Remember, remember, hair, face, knife. She lifts the heavy tub and situates the hog upon the stove, covering all the burners, and turns on all the eyes.
Thank you for joining us. One final note of gratitude from first conceiving of this program to funding this work to drawing these writers into our orbit to doing the sticky and challenging work of deciding who will receive this honor. This endeavor exists because of a great number of people. Thank you to the program team at the Mellon Foundation. A special thanks to Maria Spont-Lemos, Maya Marshall, Dana Blanchard, and the whole Haymarket team. Thank you to the nominators, readers, the selection committee for their work, and thank you for being here.